talking about your grandfather being a runner, and he had to have been very fast, that was everything he had to come up with, to survive that, because most people do. Did he ever say anything? I was talking, I was this, I was something.
The stories that I was able to research about him being a runner came from relatives that he had told the story to. And I was extremely fortunate. Not only did my Aunt Millie, she's still alive, she's 88, not only did she give me his war letters in uniform, but she had the foresight to actually formally interview and record answers about my grandfather's war experiences. So she was able to quote him directly, and as a journalist, of course, that made me very excited. And I was very excited that I ended up getting his division history on eBay many years ago. All the sources corroborated each other. It was just absolutely amazing for me as a journalist. And that was the fun part, just digging until I could piece together the story. Any other questions?
You mentioned that your grandfather, I think when you read the book, you mentioned how he was known to be able to repeat the message or instructions almost verbatim. Now, was that an intentional thing where he would only be given them orally in case he was intercepted, that he wouldn't have a written message on it? Was that?
I think that was probably part of it, but I also think that there wasn't time. Because runners were relied upon during key moments where there just, wasn't time to write something out in Washington or something. He just said something and the other guy took off. But a lot of times they did not come back. And the impression that I got from the relatives that I interviewed was that it wasn't just he was on 1 or 2 runs. He was running for quite a while, so he definitely beat the odds. Anybody else? Yes.
Did he leave a military items? Did you not know that he was in World War I? So it was in the trunk that he left?
Again, Millie had inherited all of his stuff, and so I ended up with his tunic and his breeches, and I ended up getting his medals replaced. I don't know if you guys know this, but you're able to get, the family members are able to get medals replaced one time, so I was able to get his medals replaced. But he gave his medals to his grandson to play with, didn't really care about it when they were lost. So I'd like to end by just talking a little bit about, I should say reading a little bit about chapter 1. And I named the chapter, It's a Long Way to Minnesota, after the song is The Long Way to Tipperary, okay, good, which was very popular in World War II, but it actually was written and was popular during World War I. And this is on Halloween night, 1918, and it was in France in the middle of the night, and it was an extremely dangerous period for my grandfather. And he had tasted battle before, so he knew what was coming up for him. So chapter 1, It's a Long Way to Minnesota. On Halloween night, 1918, Judge Knott tried to rest, knowing it was coming again. And it would be his duty to confront it head-on. The gripping horror, the explosions, the machine gun bullets, the wounded and the grotesque corpses that lay where they fell. The ugliest reality of life. At pre-dawn, the time when lightness wrestles with the darkness and the outcome is still unclear, the U.S. shelling began. Private Knott held up about 2.5 miles west of the Neuse River near Verdun, France, waiting for the infantry to take its turn at a full frontal assault. His battalion had successfully relieved one that was spent, without incident or friendly fire, which was always a risk in the forward zone. He was in just about the last place on earth he ever expected to be, in the middle of a world calamity, doing something unfathomable. Dreaded Verdun had been the site of indescribable carnage for the French, like an unwelcome ghost of the past. A heavy shadow of death, failure, and doom had fallen over Judge. Judge prayed he would make it home. The problem was, he figured the Heinz would be praying the same thing. Whose prayers would be answered? Who would die and who would live? If only he had a guardian angel. Each hour was coming before the darkness would vanish, and Judge with the Texas boys were to lead the attack into no man's land. He was confident his battalion of tough hombres, although weakened in size, was ready to deliver. But he also knew that in just a few hours, the boys would be falling on all sides of him, torn to pieces. More of his company's men would die in the next few days than at any other time. This would be Judge's deadliest fight in the war, and he was doing his best to prepare. He had to brace himself. He had to keep going. If the only way home was to go forward, then Judge would go over the top. He had to kill or be killed. It was that simple, and it was that hard. The Germans would bitterly and skillfully defend the territory they had mastered in over 4 years of occupation. They were exceptionally prepared. The doughboys who survived the next few hours and days would never forget what happened. Some would never speak of it again. The First Worldwide War would become personal, even define some. These were young men whose destinies were still a mysterious blank slate, except for the deep impressions the war would inevitably leave. They would carry the haunting and intimate memories that would color their world for the rest of their days. The lice were back, so were the rats, the trenches, the mud, the phone poles, the barbed wire, the shell holes, the ruins, the tree stumps, the pockmarked, barren, gray landscape. It was near freezing, getting bitterly cold as the war went on, and the doughboys were insufficiently supplied. There was just not enough overcoats, blankets, food, and drinkable water. Judge could talk tough, a typical trait of many young men. The truth was, he desperately wanted to see